Hey Jeff, how you doing?
Hey, wonderful, Jim. How are you?
Fantastic. I am thrilled to be here with Jeff Grabosky. Jeff is a ultra runner, and Jeff is one of 27 runners, men and women, who have run across the country, me included. And we each wrote a chapter in this book you see on the screen there, Across America on Foot. And today I'm just going to ask you a few questions, Jeff. I read your chapter last night, and the first thing that hit me all the way through it, from literally the first page throughout your entire chapter, was how phenomenally well written it was. It's like you have a degree in journalism, or have you been a writer before?
Oh, thank you, Jim. I did write a book before just about my own journey called Running with God Across America. But no, actually, growing up, I did not like writing papers or anything of the sort. I think just the experience of writing a book helped me to really focus my thoughts and try to put together a good summary for somebody who would be looking into what it would take to run across the country.
It was just so well written. And the other thing that struck me, of all the chapters I've read so far, and believe it or not, I haven't got through them all yet. I don't know if you have, but your chapter talks about so much why you ran across country and your thoughts before doing it, and also the preparation. I mean, anybody who's thinking about running across America or running across their state or whatever, man, your chapter really prepares them for that. It was just truly phenomenal. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, congrats to you, brother. It was just a phenomenal chapter, just truly phenomenal. Now I'm going to hit stop sharing here, but that's the book. It'll be available Across America on Foot. It'll be available sometime in March on Amazon. All right, there we go. Okay, Jeff, the first question I have is why in the world would you think about running across America? What prompted you to even consider such an adventure?
You know, Jim, it was a long story, and that's one reason I tried to write it down, but I'll give you the short version. Personally, I think a lot of people, I know all the authors have a variety of reasons, but I think a lot of people who did this or something like this oftentimes kind of struggled with something, whether, it's an illness or a personal issue that they're trying to overcome. And for me, it was kind of a perfect storm of things coming together, and my life had fallen apart back when I was about 22, and it took me a few years before I started running again. I had run when I was younger, but after my life kind of went down the tube, so to speak, I had some family issues. My mom passed away. I had some of my own health issues. My lung collapsed suddenly. I had lots of problems, but it was just a constant struggle of trying to get myself back and figure out what's next. And I'm a prayerful person, and I prayed a lot about it. And it went from one thing to the next, started to get involved in some longer races and marathons, raising money for cancer research in memory of my mom. And just that experience made me want to do a lot more for as many people as possible. And that's when the idea to run across America came into my mind. But it took a few years until it fully developed. And this was back in 2011, and there's been quite a few more crossings since then. But at that time, there wasn't really a lot of resources about how to run across or the different things you'd want to consider. So that's one reason I tried to focus a lot of my chapter about that preparation time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of us were going through something. I certainly was too. You mentioned just a little bit ago that you started running more. Can you give us a little bit about the history of your running, ultra running? How many marathons had you done? Had you done any ultras before the run across America?
Yeah, I had run throughout grade school and high school, and I was good, but certainly not elite, not enough to run Division I by any stretch of the imagination. And when I was a senior in college, I decided to run a marathon kind of on a whim. I hadn't really trained for it, which was a bad idea. That's a strategy I do not recommend. But after finishing that first marathon, I crossed the line. I was like, that's never happening again. I'm never running another step. And it was really about 2 years until I started running again. And that's when I started picking back up and doing a marathon here or there and trying to do it for charity or some purpose beyond myself. And I was really enjoying it. I was actually working in the running industry for a little while. And after some health issues, I really felt called to do something more So I'd only run a couple marathons, but jumped straight into a 100-mile race, which is, again, not something I would recommend. So I ended up doing 2 of those before I decided on my cross-country trek.
Now, did you have a trainer, a personal trainer, or a running coach?
No, I did not. I went to some trainings when I was running for my marathons, trying to get a little bit quicker. But when it came time for this, I just took my experience and wrote out a training plan of what I thought it would take. And in short, I was trying to get my body accustomed to being as discomfortable as possible. I figured if I was uncomfortable and I could push past it, then I could do the same on my run. So I actually quit my job and spent about 6 months both mapping out the course as well as building up to over 100 miles a week, 150 miles a week, 210 miles a week, because I wanted to run at least 30 miles a day on my journey on average. So I really took it seriously. I figured if I was going to take the time to do this, I wanted to do it as best I could to ensure that as long as everything else went okay, I could in fact finish.
You talk about taking time to map out your course. Let us know where you started, where you finished, and how you chose your route, your starting point and your finish point.
Yeah, that's a very important aspect of it. And I think for a lot of people, it would be really helpful to plan different areas along their route that they could look forward to. And that's one thing that I did. I started out in Oceanside, California. I ran to Phoenix, Arizona, where I had family. I ran to Oklahoma, where my sister-in-law's family is from. I went up to Notre Dame, where I went to college, then out to Washington, D.C., where I had family, then up through New Jersey, where I grew up, and finally to Long Island, where one of my roommates from college had a running store. So I ran ocean to ocean with all those different stops along the way. So I think I say in the book, and it's something I would recommend, maybe keep it a little bit shorter, because I was zigzagging all over the place and I could have been done a lot shorter than I was, but it was still a fantastic experience, and having those checkpoints along the way really helped break up such a long distance into more, I'll say, manageable sections.
And you had no support, right? You ran solo, and explain how that goes for anybody who's not familiar.
Yeah, solo and unsupported was the way that I chose for a few different reasons. For one, I wasn't as concerned about speed. I think if you're concerned about speed, having a support crew is the way to go. But I loaded up all my supplies into a baby jogger. It was a bob and probably weighed about 70 or 80 pounds. So I had my food, my extra clothing, medical supplies, all that type of stuff, my tent in there, and just decided to push that across. So it was very challenging, but for me, it was a way that I could kind of rely on my own training, and for me, rely on my relationship with God and for Him to carry me through. And Jim, I'll tell you, and I think all the runners and walkers will echo this, even though my journey might have been classified as solo and unsupported, by no means was it done through my efforts alone. I ran to so many people along the way who, I mean, in these remote areas, you run to people who have absolutely nothing, and they will give you everything that they have, you know, the shirt off their back, the only $20 bill that they have in their wallet, their only food that they have in their house, if it means supporting you. And I found strength every day through situations where I felt like I was running out of energy. I had nothing left. And it was these people who, through their extraordinary acts of kindness, really gave me a lot of faith in humanity, and really encouraged me to be a better person along the way. So yes, it was solo, unsupported, but I was supported the whole way through by a number of just beautiful people.
I love that, and you stress that in your book, and you do mention, like, you know, like we all had some bad experience with some people, but the majority of people in this country are overwhelming, and it's just amazing support and help that total strangers will give you. You did a great job pointing that out. The other thing I like, for anybody who's thinking about going solo, you point out the importance of changing a tire before you go out on the route, right? How many flats did you have on your epic crossing?
Oh man, my stroll held up pretty well. Didn't really end up with problems until maybe about 1,500, 2,000 miles in. I had one of my wheels actually broke, but I ended up probably with 7 or 8 flats. And one time I actually ran out of spare tubes, so trying to push that along, and that's another story about how I made it out of that. But yeah, I looked online and saw a video. This is how you change a tube. I said, okay, I got that. It's a lot more difficult once you actually try to do it yourself when you have 18 wheelers going by you at 50 miles an hour with a small space on the side of the road. So
Yeah, 100 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm going to, I say my favorite line from I'm going to pull it up because I won't remember it exactly. Towards the end, you say, the end marked the beginning. I was not the same person anymore. I love that, man, because that is just so true. I hear that from a lot of people, but just if you want to talk about that, just kind of talk about what you mean by that.
Yeah, this experience, and again, I think the authors in the book did a phenomenal job of kind of explaining what happened. So I would really recommend looking through everybody's. But my personal experience was, I think I had a lot of ideas in my head about what this journey would be like, and why it was going to be challenging, but why it would be worth it. But I think a lot of those kind of thoughts went out the window. And as soon as you kind of get to the bottom and you have nothing left, and you start relying on others and praying and being changed in ways because the main purpose that I ran is I took prayer intentions from people, which I thought would only be a small amount, but ended up with thousands of prayer intentions from people all over the world. It was really amazing. I had people that had to translate them for me because they were coming in so many different languages. But even though I set out to pray for others, I found people were praying for me, for example, and that was extremely humbling. Running into people that had nothing but were teaching me about how to be better. Just going through life on a daily basis, never knowing what was going to happen, where your next meal was going to happen, exactly where you would sleep, and just learning a lot about myself, about how I could push through difficult circumstances, but at the same time looking around and really opening my eyes and not being so selfish in my view, and keeping my worlds right here, but seeing what people in this country are really going through, and how great they really are. You'll hear a lot of things in the news about how bad people are and how, what a terrible state our country is in. But if you do something like this, you're going to come out with a whole different perspective. And one of the reasons I wrote that in the book is because I think for many of us, at least for myself, I was so focused on that last step, getting to the end. And I think when I finally got there, I realized I was a different person, but I couldn't focus on that end because I would be massively disappointed. But that end, like I said, was a new beginning. If I could take what I learned over that journey and start applying it to my life about how I lived, how I treated others, then that was going to be the true success of the journey, not actually making it across the country.
Phenomenal. And, I think we all ran into those, I called them God experiences. At times when you're in the lowest point of your run and you're thinking, I can't go on, and then right then some stranger either comes out of the house or pulls over in the car and says, what are you doing? And you tell them, they say, well, how can I help you? And it always seemed to happen exactly when I needed it, and obviously you have the same experiences.
Yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's one reason. I mean, I give talks here and there, and the first question I was always asked is, when are you writing a book about it? So I finally just wrote it so I wouldn't have to answer that. But to your point, so many days, this is not like a every once in a while type of thing where the right person comes in at exactly the right time. I mean, I'd be out in the middle of nowhere, like absolutely done. And somebody would come that could help, or had something on them that would help, or would just give you the right advice. It was absolutely incredible, amazing. And I was just blessed to be able to have that experience and to have as many people as I encountered to help change me. And I'm hoping that through what I was doing, through praying for them, that I helped them along as well.
So I'll tell you just briefly something that was kind of unusual for me, because I had fallen away from church. I was raised Catholic and hadn't gone to church in probably more than 10 years, except for weddings and funerals. But I had so many God experiences in 2002 when I ran across country that in 2003, I committed to go to a different church every week for a year. And I did, and what a phenomenal experience that was. Anyway, your chapter is just so inspiring. Anybody who reads the book or gets the book, if you're thinking about it, make sure you read Jeff's chapter, because man, is it great for planning and what to look for and what to expect. And I realized how I did not put that much of that in my chapter. I'm so glad you did. So if there's, I'm sure there's a lot of people over the years and in the future who think, well, I'd love to do that, but it sounds crazy. What would you say to some man or some woman that is thinking about running across the country and just doesn't know what they should do or not? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Jim. And whether it's running across the country, running a marathon, or someone who's starting out trying to get out and run a mile, through my personal experience, I would absolutely say that you are capable of a lot more than you give yourself credit for, and certainly more than many other people will give you credit for. When I started out even trying to do 100 miles after trying to recover from lung surgery and barely being able to walk, I can't tell you how many people said, no, that's impossible, you shouldn't do this, trying to give me a million reasons why. When I said I was going to run across the country, I got those looks and comments times 1,000. And I believed in myself. I believed it was something I was called to do. I believed that God was going to carry me through in one way, shape, or form. And if we take out those just perceived limits upon ourselves, it's amazing what we can accomplish, and not just in running, but in life. So that was a great lesson for me, and I'm hoping that's a great lesson that I can help instill in others, that you can do so much more. You just got to go and got to try and believe and pray, and you can do it.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to end it now, but we are all, there's 27 writers, authors, 27 different chapters, and we truly are blessed to have you in the group, Jeff. Your chapter is...
Oh, thank you. It was my honor, Jim.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll all, or most of us at some point, we'll all get together at some point in the next year or two, and I look so forward to meeting you.
Oh, likewise, Jim. Thank you so much.
Cross America on Foot, guys. You can find that on Amazon sometime in August.